Good evening and welcome to Poland Daily. I'm Nicholas Richardson and this is the news. The board of the Civic Platform Party is to meet this evening in the light of mounting pressure on Grzegorz Schetyna. Several leading politicians from the party say that following the disappointing election results, Schetyna will lose his position as party chairman.
Following the disappointing result of the Civic coalition in the elections, Grzegorz Schetyna's leadership is being questioned. There is criticism of the leader throughout the party. In an interview for Polsat News, Julia Pitera said that if Schetyna stays in office, there will be a split in the club. In turn, Bogdan Zdrojewski stated that lifting the Civic Platform Party will not achieving much. When asked today whether she would vote for Schetyna in the elections for party leader, Małgorzata Kidawa-Błońska replied equivocally.
A lot of things could have been done better, but some worse. The main issue right now is not Grzegorz Schetyna. There are many more problems within the party.
What made you say that you don't know if you would vote for Grzegorz Schetyna?
The fact that we are not conducting such elections now.
Maybe you should start in the elections.
Let us finish this topic for now. Today, the board and club arrangement. Let's do these things in order. This is too much to discuss at once.
Have you thought about starting in the elections for party leader?
No, I have not.
Schetyna is not helped by the fact that he clearly lost in Wrocław to the Lone Justice Party candidate Mirosława Stachowiak-Różecka. However, his idea of the so-called Senate Pact proved effective, as the opposition will have a majority in the Senate. This was the last thing we needed, for me to be the Civic Platform Party's advisor. I think that the problem is internal, as there are strong intra-party clashes, both between certain groups and individuals. There are many candidates for Schetyna's position. Borys Budka is interested, Małgorzata Kidawa-Błońska most likely is too, maybe Marshal Zdrojewski. A few people felt hurt upon the issuing of the lists in the last elections and parliamentary elections. Here, the list of names might be long. Tonight, the Civic Platform Board as well as the parliamentary club meetings will be held. Elections for the party's chairman are scheduled for January, although today Borys Budka said that they should be held before the end of the year. The club is also awaiting the election of a new leader after Sławomir Neumann resigned upon TVP Info's release of compromising recordings in which he featured.
The Gdansk Regional Court has sentenced the former president of Amber Gold, Marcin P., to 15 years in prison. His wife, Katarzyna, was sentenced to 12.5 years in prison. Apart from their prison sentences, the pair have been forbidden to engage in any business activity for a period of 10 years, being given fines of 159,000 and 135,000 zloty respectively, as well as being ordered to reimburse for the damages caused.
Marcin P. was sentenced 9 times before he started Amber Gold and OLT Express. Each time he enjoyed the benefit of a suspended sentence, and each time the court ordered that he should be given another chance so that he did not have to go to prison. Speaking of courts, let me remind you that Marcin P. registered each of his companies, and he had over a dozen of them at the Gdańsk District Court. I can point out the fact that he started his business with the share capital of around 5,000 zloty. In less than 2 years, the share capital increased to 50 million in just one company, Amber Gold. Nevertheless, it never aroused interest on the part of the registry court. Even more so, it should have aroused interest due to the fact that Marcin P. has never submitted his financial statements. The investigative committee has done a tremendous amount of work and submitted a number of notifications. At present, we have a lot of people who sit on a bench of suspects. Today is a special day. A non-final sentence of 15 years has been imposed on the instigator of the Amber Gold scandal. I hope that the prosecutor's office will see this case through.
Exactly 41 years ago today, Cardinal Karol Wojtyła, the Metropolitan Archbishop of Krakow, was elected Pope. This was the beginning of the third longest and one of the most significant pontificates in the history of the Catholic Church. The election of the Pope from a faraway country, the first non-Italian Pope in 455 years, turned out to be providential for Poland. On that day, 16th of October 1978, the Polish journey on the road to freedom began with the Pope's pilgrimages to Poland, the Solidarity movement and the final ridding of the communist yoke in 1989. Let's watch those exciting and unforgettable historical scenes from 41 years ago again.
Issimum ac reverendissimum Dominum, Dominum Carolum, Sancte Romane Ecclesiae, Cardinalem Wojtyła. Sia lodato Gesù Cristo.
Sempre sia lodato.
Carissimi fratelli e sorelle, siamo ancora tutti addolorati.
Yesterday's optimistic signals from the Brexit talks between the United Kingdom and the European Union negotiators proved to be premature, as there is still no agreement. The EU's chief negotiator, Michel Barnier, has delivered a report on the talks, but the list of unresolved matters still appears to be long.
Technical level discussions with the United Kingdom continued late into the night last night and are ongoing as we speak now. Michel Barnier will update COREPER and the European Parliament's Brexit Steering Group on the state of play of the discussions later today.
We have submitted draft text as part of the negotiations on a number of aspects under discussion. We are absolutely committed to securing a deal. We think that is in the interest of both sides. It's absolutely the case that we are committed to Northern Ireland coming out of the EU customs union.
That's the news. Thank you for watching. Stay with us for the weather, Poland Daily Business and more programmes. But from me, it's have a good night and a better tomorrow.
Welcome to Poland Daily Weather. Let's take a look at the forecast for tonight. Temperature will grow up a little to 13 degrees on the southwest. The wind will be the strongest on the north and in central Poland. Sky will be cloudless almost in every region except Szczecin and Białystok. Let's see the forecast for tomorrow. Maximum temperature will be 20 degrees in Kraków. The minimum will be 14 in Katowice. Little rainfalls will appear over Gdańsk. More sunlight is expected on the south. Let's check the weather for the next days. On Friday, temperature will range from 50 to 20 degrees. A lot of sun will appear in the whole country. On Saturday, overcast sky is expected in central and on the northwest. Pressure will fall. Sunday will bring us rainfall on the west. Maximum temperature will be 21, the minimum 14 degrees. Thank you for watching and see you soon.
Poland Daily Business Edition, and we are just after the general election in Poland. Jerzy Bielewicz, analyst and writer for Gazeta Bankowa, is our guest tonight. Sir, welcome to the show.
Good evening.
And let's explain our viewers, how do you see the reasons why Law and Justice won that election in terms of economic policy?
The key is the majority government that Law and Justice is going to form in the next few weeks. And it shows stability in Poland, political and economic stability. Poland is in the center of geopolitical changes right now, and Polish government for sure will confirm close cooperation with the United States in several sectors, from energy, military, defense to high-tech. And it brings a very, very dynamic and good growth in Poland and in the region. This 3Cs initiative, which this election helps to continue with.
Well, let us stop at this moment. And Poland was growing economically because of its proximity and membership of European Union. That was the main driver of direct investment. That was main driver of exports. That was main driver of consumer spending here in Poland. Now we are looking abroad. We are looking to the United States. Why?
Our strategy shifted toward not only the United States, but to the Eastern countries, Asian countries. There are three reasons why there is this big political and geopolitical game in our region. First one is the aggression and annexation of Crimea Peninsula by Putin's Russia and initiation of war in eastern Ukraine. The second one is close cooperation between Germany and Putin's Russia in energy sector and this famous Nord Stream 2 project. And the third is Chinese initiative of Belt and Road and Chinese interest in Central and Eastern Europe. And these three reasons put Poland in the center of global politics and global, I would say, new world order.
That means that Poland and Polish economy can keep in check this Russia-German cooperation and the Belt and Road Initiative?
I would say that for Poland it would be very dangerous if there is a cooperation between Berlin, Moscow and Peking. This is the very dangerous situation, not only for Poland, but for the United States as well. And there is a common interest between Poland and the United States, and this cooperation after this election is going to continue.
Well, the United States is focusing very much on earning money, and hydrocarbons are one of the prime vehicles to sell the gas and oil abroad. Poland will receive American LNG, or is receiving already. There are plans, for example, Polish railroad company PKP Cargo announced the plan to deliver the liquefied LNG from the shore to the middle of the country, to Oświęcim. There is going to be terminal built over there. So the huge investment and kind of new energy resource. But from American point of view, our imports are a tiny fraction, maybe 1/10, maybe 5% of the general volume exported from the United States.
I wouldn't say so. The potential is huge for cooperation in energy sector. But first we have to, as you mentioned, have to build an infrastructure to be able to trade this natural gas with Ukraine, Belarus, with our southern neighbors. But it's not only business. You have to remember that there was an anniversary, 18th anniversary of breakout of the Second World War. And it started here in Poland. So there is the stability of Central and Eastern Europe is stability for Europe and for the whole world. And American soldiers participated in the Second World War, and there were huge casualties, and millions of people died during this event. And it was the same story, the cooperation between Nazi Germany and Soviet Russia, and we don't want the repeat of the same scenario. And it's very good that the United States got involved ahead of time and prevent this chain of events.
To wrap up this discussion, you think that United States are smarter now than they were in 1930s, 1940s, and the cooperation in Poland is seen as a key factor of the world stability.
Exactly. That's the case, and that's why Poland is a very important place on the world map at this point.
Jerzy Bielewicz of Gazeta Bankowa, financial analyst, was our guest, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
And that was it for tonight's Poland Daily Business.
Welcome back to Poland Daily Weather. Let's take a look at the forecast for tomorrow. Maximum temperature will be 20 degrees in Kraków. The minimum will be 14 in Katowice. Little rainfalls will appear over Gdańsk. More sunlight is expected on the south. Now let's check the weather for Europe. On the south of Europe, temperature will range from 90 degrees in Madrid to 29 in Ankara. In Central Europe and on British Islands, weather will improve, and there the temperature will rise. In Scandinavia, more rainfalls will appear. Thank you for watching and goodbye.
Good day, everyone. My name is Maria Kądzielska, and this is Poland Daily Culture. The Pilecki Institute is one of the most important research organizations in Poland. It is named after one of the bravest Poles in history, Witold Pilecki. Dr. Wojciech Kozłowski, the director of the institute, is our guest today. Thank you for being with us.
Happy to be with you here.
But let's start with some shots of their actions. And what is also so unique about his approach to genocide that it is worth keeping alive and mentioning still and still. So how unique he was in his way of thinking, I think it's worth explaining, in the way that people around him were not in those times.
There are two essential points to be made here. First one is that he was the first. He was the first who studied I think, a phenomenon of a crime, of a mass crime that happened not only during the Second World War, but also earlier on. He was very much interested in what happened to the Armenians during the First World War in the Ottoman Turkey. But he was the first to identify this phenomenon of mass murder and to call it a genocide, because he was the first one to give a definition. And the definition that tries to explain or simply tries to illustrate what happens when people are executed, when they are murdered for features or issues that are sort of inborn, that they have nothing to do with. They cannot respond. They cannot be executed for a crime that is not a crime. The fact that that our skin is white, the fact that we are of particular ethnicity is something that we cannot be blamed for. Now, the genocide is very much about this way of thinking about other humans, and he says this is the core of what genocide is. You're killing people for blaming them for things that they cannot be blamed for because they're not responsible for it. So this is like a crime without proper accusation.
Do you know already what are the responses of the people in New York who've seen the exhibition?
Well, the exhibition was received very well. It's not a big one because the lobby, the delegate lobby in the UN in New York is not that big, and we simply didn't have much space to use. But it was well and warmly received, and it was very important for the Institute to present our work for the first time on the American soil. And at the very beginning, it was done within the international organization. And to be sure, Raphael Lemkin was an important contributor to creation and development of the United Nations and the international law that followed the development of the UN.
And at the same time, you undertake other projects devoted to Lemkin. And what are they?
Well, we have Raphael Lemkin is one of our sort of leading projects over a couple of years, and we started with a research project. We have a big research project that is extended for 5 years, and every year we organize in December in Warsaw an international conference that is linked to that project, to Raphael Lemkin, and to more or less either historical or legal issues that circulate or around the question of genocide. And then that's why we decided to put up a single exhibition. It was first presented in Poland. It was again welcomed, and that's why we decided to export it beyond Polish borders. So Raphael Lemkin is part of important activities done by the Institute, since we believe that his figure should be reminded to the international community, and as well it should be better known in Poland, because many people have forgotten that we have a serious contribution to the modern international law.
Pilecki Institute is also undertaking a huge project called by name, so Zawołani po imieniu in Polish. What is it all about, and who do you call by name?
It's always difficult to answer a simple question to that fairly complicated project. Called by Name is the project that tries to bring back the names of Poles who, during the Second World War, during the German occupation of Polish lands, were killed for assisting Jews. Assisting in any possible way. It doesn't have to mean that they offered hiding place. Sometimes it was just a piece of clothing or a piece of food that were distributed to people in need, in that case, the Jews. And these people were killed, and the trauma that their families went through was never shared by larger community. This was always an experience of single families, and these people were left with that experience for decades. And now, by organizing these little ceremonies, when we put a stone and little plaque on it with the description what happened, we try to bring back those names, and we want to say that these people were heroes of that particular time in our history.
I think it's a great punchline to say that Poles have a serious contribution to international law, and that the Pole was the first person to form the concept of genocide, and that was Raphael Lemkin. So thank you for watching Poland Daily Culture.
(1830) was a year of revolution in Europe. Belgium, France, Switzerland, and in Greece, the struggle to independence from the Ottoman Empire was finally successful. And in this dramatic year, Poland was no exception. In this programme, we look at the November 1830 revolution, which gave the Poles 9 months of freedom, of independence, the only 9 months they had between the Third Partition of Poland in 1795 and the re-emergence of the Polish state after the First World War in 1918. Join us on Poland Daily History for this dramatic story.
In that particular battle, I think I'm right in saying that the Polish army were very close to being able to capture some of the Russians' key supplies, which might actually have meant the Russians could not sustain themselves in the field of battle at that period.
As you say, I mean, many misfortunes, many missed opportunities.
Missed opportunities.
Missed
right.
opportunities.
And so we then have these three battles. What happened next? How do we get to there, to when the uprising, militarily at least, finally collapses?
Now we have to mention the decisive battle. In fact, it's a bit risky. This thesis is a bit risky, but not too much. That was the Battle of Ostrołęka in May.
Yes.
Because the Russian plan was to take Warsaw, but not from the east, because once they that it was a misfortune for them, but from the west. It's easier. Because, Warsaw is difficult to be taken from the east, because first you have the river,
yes,
and then you have the high bank
That's right.
of the river, that is where we are now, unlike Praga, which is much lower. So it's better to, take Warsaw from behind. But in order to that, they had to cross the River Vistula. The attempt to stop them was at the Battle of Ostrołęka in May 1839. 31, sorry. A very bloody battle. Many high-rank officers, Polish officers, got killed in that battle. And yet again, this commander, I mentioned a couple of times, Skrzynecki, didn't have the guts, to order attacks. It was all about, defense. When you are too weak, you cannot defend yourself. You have to attack.
Of course, exactly. Attack is the best form of defense in many cases, particularly militarily.
So after the Battle of Ostrołęka, where Poles were forced to retreat, at least in some way, to retreat, the Russians did what they wanted. That is to say, they crossed the river and started marching towards Warsaw. The final battle, the Battle of Warsaw, the Siege of Warsaw, if you prefer, it's in September 1839.
31.
What am I saying all the time?
You say 30. I think it's 1831. You say 39.
39. Because I was for some time I was working for the Warsaw Uprising Museum, and I was talking about the outbreak of the Second World War.
A different 39. Yes. So anyway, in case anybody's worried, we are still in 1830. September 1831. We're about to reach the.
But correct me if I.
Of course. Yes, well, I would hesitate to correct such an eminent historian. But yes, so we're in September 1831. We're about to have what you have said will be the sort of final and the most significant military end to the
I mean,
uprising.
it's not the end of the uprising, but in fact, I mean, when the Warsaw is taken, I mean, it's already decided. Right. I mean, the government leaves Warsaw.
They go to Modlin, I think, at one point. Is that right? They sort of go north to Modlin,
and
then Płotsk.
But I mean, further fight is completely, futile.
Yes, and indeed, some of the I'm right here, some of the military actually find their way into Germany or to surrender to the Prussians rather than surrender to the Russians, or to give themselves up, or move there and then try and set up some sort of foreign legion. And
I mean, they know that that the Russian revenge would be very, very, harsh. So, those who took active part knew very well that they have to escape the country in order to save their heads, simply.
And they did.
And how do you escape from Poland? No, either through Prussia or through Austria. It's not that easy that you just set sail and go wherever you want. Many of them, many of those people in Prussia were imprisoned. Slowly, but gradually, they would either flee or would be freed from prisons. But it takes time. So it's not that 1 week after the Warsaw Rising collapses, you find them in France. It's not like this. I mean, it takes time.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Poland Daily Travel. It's fantastic. In these series of episodes, we're going to be taking a special walk in Warsaw. We're going to be looking at the sumptuous and scintillating gardens at the palace by the Vistula. That's right, we'll be taking a walk between the palace and the river. That's the royal palace, of course. Not only a beautiful building, but beautiful gardens as well. And Old Man Vistula rolling by. We're going to take a walk in the remade gardens and talk some old rubbish and see where the old river crossing was. You will be just as amazed as I was, along with Stan. Later, we'll walk along the Vistula, along what is called the Vistula Boulevards, which sports, according to many publications, the best beaches of any big city in all of Europe. We'll let you be the judge of that. So come along for a special walk between the palace and the river. That's Poland Daily Travel. We're in Warsaw. What better place to be? Let's go for a stroll. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Poland Daily. We're in a special place, again, in Warsaw. We've been doing a series of episodes starting with the Royal Castle, and we've just walked down. I was telling Stan, we just walked down from the castle to toward the new town. I used to live right over here behind. We won't show that picture. It's not that interesting, but there's a building there. And this used to be my view out my window. There's a parking lot too, sort of in the way.
And now you'll know what you were looking at.
Yes, this is the point. I had no idea what exactly this building represented. So, Stan, why don't you tell us?
So
you practiced your speech.
It's a very interesting building because for many years I've seen this building. It looked a bit more like almost like a Gothic style building, but then I realized it's not really. Then I learned it's a building from the late 16th century, and then only then I learned the function of this building. First of all, it wasn't destroyed during the war, so it has a very nice, you see those bricks, they look old. And second of all, I've learned that this was the entrance of an old bridge in Warsaw. The first bridge that was ever built on the river. So again, now it's the city, but a few hundred years ago, that would be probably the banks of the river here. And you can see this arch. It was the entrance of the bridge. It was built at the very end of on the second half of the 16th century at the order of King Sigmund August. He's the one that gave Warsaw. He's not the one that moved the capital from Krakow to Warsaw, but he's the one that made this decision possible because he wanted to have a seat closer to Lithuania, to the Grand Duchy of Lithuania. Poland and Lithuania became one country under the Union of Lublin in 1567.
1567.
Yeah,
okay.
sorry.
That's all right. Don't apologize.
Yeah. And
at least you know the date.
I know the date.
No clue. Yeah.
And so he wanted to have a place where he could reside closer to the Grand Duchy, more central to the country, and as a symbol of this union, he decided to build a bridge because back then you'd have to take ferries. That would be a long thing, you know, taking ferries and stuff. So they built a grand 500 meters long wooden bridge, which was a marvel.
From going from this building?
From this building up until the other bank of the river. The river was slightly, you know,
it was more moved this way
differently
than it is
orientated,
today.
yes.
It was closer to the west.
Yes.
It's moved further to the east now. That's the point,
It was built
right?
in brick probably because one of the reasons is that there was many wooden houses, and those houses were dismounted because they feared that if there's some fire breaks out, then it could actually take the bridge with it. So that's why they just destroyed the suburbs and they left this tower, which was probably guarded by 50 soldiers or something. You know, it was an important place. And the bridge, unfortunately, didn't last long because, as you know, back then, especially back then, the winters were harsh, much harsher than today. And in the winter...
Or they just felt worse?
Or maybe they felt
worse.
worse.
Central heat.
Yeah.
I mean, if we didn't have central heat today, they'd be pretty harsh.
They'd be pretty harsh, but back then they were even longer. You know, now it's...
And more frozen river.
Yeah,
and thing like
the river was totally frozen.
The Thames used to...
Yeah, the
Thames to you.
In
the Thames to
in
me.
the 17th century, I don't
Used
know
to
if
freeze
you
over.
know, but there was a small glacier period. I mean glacier.
The Little Ice Age.
The Little Ice
That's what
Age
they call
of
it,
the
right?
17th century, exactly. Yeah. And so you know, in the spring, when the ice started to melt, it created great morsels that would float the river, and it just broke the bridge. It broke the bridge many times. It was repaired, but then it was completely destroyed with one of those spring ice attack, let's say, and then they just
flooding of the ice down the river
the ice just broke the bridge. It was a long, beautiful, the longest bridge in Europe back then.
Fantastic.
Wooden longest
What
bridge.
year was that? Do you know?
It happened in 1603 when the bridge was finally destroyed.
Yeah.
It was open around 1570 something, and then it just lasted 30 years. But it was a big marvel of architecture because it was long, it was very carefully designed, and that's the thing that is left from that bridge.
Fantastic. Thank you, Stan, for that excellent story. I
This
just
is
had an idea.
There's one thing. This street
What?
is called Mostowa,
Which means bridge.
which means the
So it's
street
Bridge
bridge.
Street.
Bridge Street, yeah.
It's Bridge Street. Thank you very much
See?
for that excellent introduction, or no, explanation, I suppose, to, I think, having talked about the old bridge, we should go and see where it collapsed.
Yeah.
But, you know, the fountains are over there.
Yeah, we could see the fountains.
We'll have a wee look at the fountains just to show the people, and then we'll go down to the river.
Right,
Not much
okay.
to say about the fountains, they just
No,
exist.
they just exist.
Show the
Yeah,
people.
let's go.
Okay. Well, hello everybody. I promised that we would get over here to the riverside, and we've done that. That there is the Vistula River. And as we were saying before we came on the camera, Stan Jaglinski, folks, Stan, the river is a lot lower than usual.
Yeah, it is.
Looks like.
Yeah. We had huge droughts this year, and I've never seen the river so low. Actually, a few years ago, it was so low that they were able to retrieve things that the Swedes stole during the Polish-Swedish War in the 17th century. It's actually funny, and some of those things were...
Things just turned up.
Oh yeah, because they were stealing things and they were rafting them to Gdańsk and then to ship them to Sweden. And since the levels of the Vistula are so low since a few years, and this year particularly low, a few years ago they managed to, some of those rafts just sunk during the process of stealing those things in the river, and they found some of those things, some places around Warsaw in the river. This is actually a funny story. But the level is rather alarmingly low, but still it's our beautiful Vistula River, the heart of the country.
Yeah, it goes from all the way from the mountains all the way to the sea.
Yeah.
Goes through Krakow, goes through Warsaw, obviously through Torun.
Yes.
And
most of the major
right
cities.
The way up to Gdansk, right?
Yes.
Comes out at Gdansk. Very good. Very, very good.
One of the longest rivers in Europe. And a funny story is when you look at a map.
Like 5th place or something?
Yeah, probably.
I don't know. What's first, the Volga?
Yeah, if don't.
It's in Europe.
Yeah, if it's in Europe.
It's hard to know with Russia.
Yeah, exactly.
Europe
Russia is not
Europe.
really determined
Russia's
where.
kind of Russia, isn't it?
Yeah. So I wouldn't count the Russian rivers, but if we talk about purely the Occidental, if we talk about purely about the rivers in what we call Europe, we have the Danube, we have the Vistula, we have the Rhine River. I would say these are the largest rivers in Europe.
Those are the main ones.
Yeah.
Look over here. That is the beach. They say, I've heard it said that Warsaw has the best beaches in a city in Europe. I mean, is that any claim to fame? Is that a claim to fame?
Well, I have no stats about this, but I would say from my observations, yes, because I've never seen such a large river in one of the main cities in Europe having wild banks.
And that's on the opposite
side. This is on the Praga
side.
Yeah, eastern side.
On this side, it's not like that.
This side is different because it's paved and you have boulevards. Yeah. Those boulevards were built in the 30s by the last president of Warsaw before the outbreak of the Second World War.
These were built in the 30s?
Yes.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I mean, part of those infrastructure still has marks from the war, like bullet holes all over, especially those ones here. But of course, a few years ago, it was rebuilt.
Yeah.
I mean, rebuilt. They added some, so now it became a major tourist thing to come, or if you're
to come here.
To come here because
let's go explore. Let's go explore.
Yeah.
All right, stay with us. Next episode of Poland Daily Travel with me and with Stan. We're going to walk down the boulevards of the Vistula River.